Good evening, dear listener. Tonight, I invite you to drift with me into one of the most enchanting tales ever whispered through time. Before we begin our journey, take a quiet moment. If these stories bring you peace, please like this video and subscribe so our circle of dreamers may continue to grow. Tell me, where in the world are you listening from? And what hour greets you tonight? I love seeing how far this little family of stories has traveled. Now, let the lights fade. Let the world outside fall silent. And together, let's wander into the soft glow of tonight's story. Which was the happiest? Such lovely roses, said the sunshine, its golden fingers caressing the garden. Each bud will soon unfold and open its silken heart. These are my children. It is I who have kissed them to life, painting their petals with warmth and light. They are my children, whispered the dew, glimmering on every leaf. I have nourished them with my tears before dawn, while the world still dreamed. I think I am their true mother, said the rose bush, standing proud yet tender. You, sunshine and dew, are only their godmothers, who have blessed them with gifts of your kindness and means. My lovely rose children, the three voices exclaimed together. May each of you find the greatest happiness. Yet only one could be happiest, and one perhaps least. But who would it be? I shall find out, said the wind, swirling gently through the leaves. I roam far and wide. I slip into the smallest cracks and whisper into the highest clouds. I know what happens everywhere, within and without. Every rose heard those words. Even the smallest buds, not yet open, trembled with curiosity. Then came a woman, dressed in mourning black, her face pale from grief. She moved slowly through the garden until she saw a half-blown rose, fresh and fragrant. This one, she murmured, this one will do. To her eyes, it was lovelier than all the rest. She carried it to her silent room, where only days before her young daughter had danced and laughed. Now the girl lay still in her coffin, white as marble. The mother kissed her child's cold forehead, then pressed her lips upon the rose. She laid it gently upon her daughter's breast, as if through its freshness and her own kiss, life might return once more. The rose quivered with wonder. What a sweet path I have been chosen for, it thought. I go where no rose has gone, kissed by a mother's sorrow, resting upon the breast of an angel child. Surely, I am the happiest of all my sisters. In the same garden, an old woman came to weed the beds. Her eyes fell upon a full-blown rose, grand and heavy with perfume. One more day of sun, one more fall of dew, and you'll shatter, she said. Your beauty has lasted long enough. Now you shall serve a new purpose." She plucked the rose, wrapped it in newspaper, and carried it home. There she laid it among other faded blossoms and lavender in a jar of salt, a potpourri to keep fragrance long after death. "See," cried the rose, "I am granted an honor shared only by roses and kings. I am to be embalmed. Surely none could be happier." Later, 2 young men wandered through the garden, one a painter, the other a poet. Each chose a rose. The painter placed his flower before him and worked until its likeness lived forever on his canvas. "Now you will never fade," he said softly. "Ah," sighed the rose, "I shall live through ages, painted in light and color, remembered by eyes unborn. I must be the happiest of all." But the poet looked upon his rose and felt a song stir within him. He wrote verses of love and beauty, of life as brief and sweet as the bloom he held. When his poem was read by hearts yet to come, it would make the rose eternal in words, immortal in poetry, cried the rose. What greater joy could there be? Behind them, hidden beneath the larger blooms, grew a small rose with a slight imperfection. It leaned askew, and within its heart a green crippled leaf had grown. "Poor child," whispered the wind, brushing its cheek. The rose blushed with pride, thinking the kiss was one of admiration. "I am different," it thought, perhaps chosen for a special fate. A butterfly drifted down and kissed its petals. A fleeting suitor. The rose let him go. Then came a great green grasshopper who perched nearby and rubbed his legs together, a lover's song in his own way. The crooked rose thought he sang for her. "He loves me so much he could devour me," she thought. "And to be one with love is the highest bliss." But she turned him away. That night, beneath a starlit sky, a nightingale began to sing. "He sings only for me," thought the flawed rose. "Surely I am most favored of all." Later still, 2 gentlemen passed by smoking cigars. "Roses cannot bear tobacco," one said. "Let's see." They blew smoke upon the imperfect flower, not daring to risk the finer ones. "Ah, another honor," said the rose. "I am chosen again." But soon her color changed, and she turned green with vanity and with smoke. A gardener came next morning and picked the finest bud of the bush, arranging it with other blossoms in a grand bouquet. It was carried in a coach beside a handsome young heir to the theater, where lights glittered like a sea of stars. As the music swelled and applause thundered, a young dancer stepped into the light. Roses rained upon her feet. Among them fell the bouquet, in which the proud rose glittered like a gem. Overwhelmed by joy, it danced as it fell, breaking from its stem. A stagehand found it behind the curtain, and touched by its beauty, took it home. He placed it in a wine glass beside his frail old grandmother. The old woman smiled. "You did not come to the banquet of the rich," she said gently. "You came to brighten the heart of an old soul. To me, you are as lovely as a whole rose bush." Her eyes glowed with youth, reborn as she looked at it. The cracked window pane let in the wind, who whispered, "I saw her eyes shining like the morning," and the stemless rose glowing beside her. Yes, this one is truly the happiest of them all. And so each rose on the bush had its story, each believing itself the most blessed. Faith, after all, is the secret of happiness. The last rose, still clinging to the bush, said proudly, "I outlasted them all." The final blossom, my mother's cherished child, and I am the mother, said the rose bush. "No, I am," said the sunshine. "And I," said the dew. "Each has a part," declared the wind, rustling through the leaves. "And I have mine too. I carry their stories to the ends of the earth." Then the wind lifted the fallen petals and scattered them where the sun shone and the dew sparkled. "Now tell me," it whispered, "which rose was the happiest of them all?" And the garden remained silent, for happiness, like fragrance, belongs to all who believe in it. The puppet show man, once, on board a slow steamer crossing the Danish waters, I made the acquaintance of an elderly gentleman whose face shone with such merry light that one could almost believe joy itself had taken human form. His wrinkles were carved by laughter, not sorrow, and his eyes sparkled with the untroubled delight of a child who had never learned to doubt. If his expression was truly a mirror of his soul, he must have been the happiest man alive. And indeed, he assured me that he was. He was a Dane, the proud owner of a traveling theater, though not one of living actors, but of wooden ones. He was master of a puppet show, and his entire company, as he fondly called them, traveled with him, packed neatly in a large painted box. He told me that his constant cheerfulness had even been tested by a learned man from the Polytechnic Institution in Copenhagen, and that, after certain experiments, he had been declared perfectly happy. I confess, at first I understood little of what he meant, but he soon offered to explain. And thus began the most curious tale I ever heard upon the sea. "I was giving a performance," said he, "in the posting house hall of the little town of Slagelse. The audience was splendid, mostly children, whose laughter rings purer than gold bells, with 2 respectable matrons seated stiffly at the back. All went merrily, when suddenly a stranger entered. A tall man dressed in black, with the thoughtful look of a scholar. He took a seat, listened attentively, and laughed heartily at every jest, clapping at the proper moments. Such a listener I had never had before. Afterwards, I learned he was a lecturer from the Polytechnic, sent to enlighten the provinces with science and wonder. At 8 o'clock sharp, my play ended, for children must sleep, and a good manager respects bedtime. Then, at 9, began the lecture. I went among the audience to watch, and what I saw astonished me. His experiments were like miracles performed before our eyes, yet explained so simply that even the most marvelous seemed ordinary. Much went far beyond my understanding, yet my soul burned with curiosity. I thought, if man can discover such marvels, surely he was not made merely to vanish into dust when buried beneath the earth. The lecturer made sparks dance, light sing, and metals obey him. In the days of Moses, such a man would have been revered as a prophet. In the Middle Ages, burned for sorcery, he chuckled and sipped his wine before continuing. That night, sleep fled from me. I lay awake, thinking of magnets, fire, and invisible forces. When I performed again next evening, the lecturer attended once more, and I was in my happiest mood. You know, he added, I once heard of an actor who, when playing the lover, fixed his gaze upon a single lady in the audience and forgot the rest. So it was with me. I played that night only for the Polytechnic man. He was my muse, my inspiration, my she. When his puppets were packed away and the applause faded, the lecturer invited him to share a glass of wine. He spoke of my comedies, said the old man, and I of his science. And so we exchanged wisdoms, though I'm sure I learned more than he. He told me how a bit of iron, when rubbed on a cylinder, becomes magnetic, yet could not tell why. Sparks leap to it, but from where? I laughed and said it was the same with men. The world rubs them about, and now and then a spark strikes. And behold, a Napoleon, a Luther, a genius is born. He liked that notion. All the world is full of miracles, he said. Only we have grown too accustomed to call them everyday things. They drank and talked until the old man's head felt light, as if lifted from his shoulders. I declared, he said, that were I not so old, I would join the Polytechnic at once, for I longed to learn how to see only the bright side of life. But truly, he added, I was already one of the happiest men alive. Are you really happy? Asked he, smiling curiously. Indeed I am, said I. For wherever I go, the children welcome me, and laughter greets my puppets. Only one wish troubles me, that I might one day become the director of a real theater, with living men and women instead of wooden dolls. "Ah," said he, "you wish to breathe life into your puppets, to make them living actors under your rule. But would that make you truly happy?" We debated long, unable to agree. The wine flowed, our glasses clinked, and a warmth like sunlight filled the room. I could almost believe he was one of those ancient gods who once walked the earth in human guise. And indeed, I think he must have been, for he promised that my wish should be granted. They drank once more to seal the magic. Then the lecturer packed the puppets into their box, fastened it to the old man's back, and, so the story went, he felt the world spin round him in a whirl of light until he dropped to the floor. When he awoke, the miracle had occurred. The puppets were alive. They stepped out one by one, stretching their new limbs, preening, talking, all insisting they were great artists, and that he, their master, must treat them accordingly. "At first," said he, "I was proud beyond measure. But soon the trouble began. The dancing lady demanded to stand only on one leg, claiming it was the mark of genius. The queen insisted upon being treated royally off stage as well as on. The messenger who brought a letter puffed himself up like the leading man, declaring that small roles were equally vital to the artistic whole. The hero would act only in scenes sure to bring applause, while the prima donna refused to perform unless the lights were red. Blue, she said, spoiled her complexion. It was like living inside a bottle of buzzing flies, and I, poor wretch, was trapped within it. His bright eyes twinkled at the memory. My breath failed me, my head spun, and I wished them all back in their box again. I told them plainly they were nothing but puppets, whereupon the ungrateful creatures rose up and killed me. He burst out laughing. At least, that is what I thought, for the next thing I knew, I was lying on my bed. The moon shone across the floor, the box stood open, and the dolls were scattered everywhere. I leapt up at once, seized each one, some by the head, some by the heels, and stuffed them back inside. Then I shut the lid and sat upon it firmly. Now, said I, you'll stay there, and I shall never again wish you flesh and blood. He leaned back, smiling with deep satisfaction. When morning came, well, to speak truth, it was nearly noon. I was still sitting on the box, happy as ever, cured of ambition. The Polytechnic man had vanished, perhaps flown back to Olympus, where he belonged. Since that day, I have been the happiest director alive. My company never quarrels, my audiences never complain, and every play ends in laughter. I take the best from each old comedy, those that once made mothers and fathers weep 30 years ago, and I shorten them a little, for the children of today have no patience for long speeches. When the story grows sad, I let it end quickly, for life is too short to linger in sorrow. He folded his hands, his eyes still bright as candlelight on calm water. So you see, he concluded softly, the Polytechnic professor was right. The world is filled with miracles, and sometimes the greatest of them is simply to be content. The days of the week. There was once a time, or rather, there is always such a time, though it comes but rarely, when the days of the week longed to be free. Each of them had labored without pause since the world began, marching in an endless circle around the calendar like dutiful little soldiers. Monday followed Sunday, Tuesday followed Monday, and so it went on, century after century, without even the courtesy of a holiday in between. They worked in all seasons, through the snows of January, the showers of April, the heat of August, and though mankind celebrated them, cursed them, and counted their passing, no one ever thought to give them rest. One evening, as February was drawing near, Sunday sighed and said, "My dear brothers and sisters, I think we have earned a day of our own, a day not numbered, not burdened, not even named." The others agreed at once, for all were weary of their routine. But who could spare them? Every day had its duties. Monday, its rush; Tuesday, its strength; Wednesday, its balance; Thursday, its thunder; Friday, its charm; Saturday, its chores. At last, they remembered that every fourth year, February received a strange and magical gift, a day that came from nowhere and returned to nowhere. The intercalary day, the 29th. "Ah," cried Sunday, "that is the day we shall take for ourselves. Let it be our carnival, our one night of laughter between the pages of the calendar." And so, when the leap year came and the world's clocks struck midnight between February 28th and March 1st, the days of the week slipped out of their duties and gathered together to feast. Sunday came first, as he always does. He was splendidly dressed, wearing a long black cloak that shimmered like church silk, and a crimson carnation glowed in his buttonhole, which, if one looked closely, was in fact a tiny red lantern with the cheerful words, "All sold out, enjoy yourselves," written across its glass. The devout mistook him for a preacher, but the rest knew well enough that he came to bless pleasure, not piety. Next came Monday, young, restless, and with his sleeves still rolled up from work. He was whistling a tune by Offenbach and claimed he could never resist a parade or a band. "Music tickles my legs more than my heart," he laughed. "And before I know it, I'm dancing, drinking, fighting, and then sleeping like a saint until it's time to begin again. I am the new blood of the week, the fresh start." Then strode in Tuesday, proud and upright as a soldier. His name, he reminded everyone, came from Tyr, the god of courage and law. He wore a police uniform, bright buttons shining, and his gaze was sharp enough to make even idle Wednesday stand straighter. "Order is my business," he said. "I see that the merchants tie on Mercury's wings, the wheels turn in the mills, the hammers fall in rhythm, and every worker tends his trade. Without me, the week would collapse like a badly built chair." He tapped his baton on the table and added, "If that's not wit enough for you, think of a better jest yourselves." Wednesday came in next, looking very pleased with himself. He wore a fine vest and carried a walking stick, as though he were a respectable shopkeeper taking the air. "Gentlemen," he declared, "I am the very center of the week. In Germany, they call me Herr Mittwoch, and well they might, for I stand firm between the days that rush forward and the days that drag behind. 3 days before me, 3 after me, like an honor guard. Truly, I must be the most balanced and distinguished of us all." After him thundered Thursday, quite literally. He was broad-shouldered, his beard bright with sparks, and he carried a copper kettle under one arm and a hammer in the other. "Make way for Thor," he boomed. "In the north, they call me by his name. In the south, they call me Jupiter. Both could call down lightning, and that, my friends, runs in the family." He struck his kettle with his hammer, and the whole room rang with a sound like laughter wrapped in thunder. Then came Friday, graceful, smiling, and radiant as spring. She was dressed like a young woman at a festival, her hair braided with pearls, and her eyes were full of mischief. "I am Freya," she said sweetly, "and also Venus, depending on which language you love in. I am joy, beauty, and the promise of rest after toil. But tonight," she added, blushing, "I am bolder than usual, for it is leap day, and by ancient custom, a woman may ask for a man's hand instead of waiting for his." The others clapped and teased her mercilessly, and Friday only laughed. Finally came Saturday, older, plumper, and carrying a broom, a mop, and a basket full of cleaning rags. Her apron was spotless, and her expression was practical. "If none of you will tidy up after this fine party, I suppose I must," she said briskly. But first, I'll have a bowl of beer soup, my favorite. You needn't all share it, but I'll take mine now." They gave it to her, and she was content, and so the 7 days feasted together. They ate, drank, and jested until the candles guttered out and the clocks prepared to move on again. They praised one another, quarreled, made peace, and swore eternal friendship, much as human beings do at every good party. Their laughter echoed faintly through the hours, though no mortal heard it, for men and women slept soundly, while time itself held its breath. When dawn came, the intercalary day quietly folded itself back into February, and the 7 went their separate ways once more. Sunday to his sermons and parades, Monday to his bustle, Tuesday to his order, Wednesday to his pride, Thursday to his thunder, Friday to her beauty, and Saturday to her cleaning. Yet, if you listen very closely on the night between the 28th of February and the 1st of March in a leap year, you may still hear a distant music, laughter, clinking glasses, and the faint beat of Thor's kettle. It is the carnival of the days of the week, celebrating their one borrowed moment of freedom. And that, dear reader, is why February alone was given the gift of an extra day, so that time itself might dance. The Dryad. We are traveling to Paris, to the exhibition. Now we are there. That was a journey, a flight without magic. We flew on the wings of steam over the sea and across the land. Yes, our time is the time of fairy tales. We are in the midst of Paris, in a great hotel. Blooming flowers ornament the staircases, and soft carpets the floors. Our room is a very cozy one, and through the open balcony door, we have a view of a great square. Spring lives down there. It has come to Paris and arrived at the same time with us. It has come in the shape of a glorious young chestnut tree with delicate leaves newly opened. How the tree gleams, dressed in its spring garb, before all the other trees in the place. One of these latter had been struck out of the list of living trees. It lies on the ground with roots exposed. On the place where it stood, the young chestnut tree is to be planted and to flourish. It still stands towering aloft on the heavy wagon, which has brought it this morning a distance of several miles to Paris. For years it had stood there in the protection of a mighty oak tree under which the old venerable clergyman had often sat, with children listening to his stories. The young chestnut tree had also listened to the stories, for the Dryad who lived in it was a child also. She remembered the time when the tree was so little that it only projected a short way above the grass and ferns around. These were as tall as they would ever be, but the tree grew every year. and enjoyed the air and the sunshine, and drank the dew and the rain. Several times it was also, as it must be, well shaken by the wind and the rain, for that is a part of education. The Dryad rejoiced in her life, and rejoiced in the sunshine and the singing of the birds, but she was most rejoiced at human voices. She understood the language of men, as well as she understood that of animals, butterflies, cockchafers, dragonflies. Everything that could fly came to pay a visit. They could all talk. They told of the village, of the vineyard, of the forest, of the old castle with its parks and canals and ponds. Down in the water dwelt also living beings, which, in their way, could fly under the water from one place to another. Beings with knowledge and delineation. They said nothing at all. They were so clever, and the swallow, who had dived, told about the pretty little goldfish, of the thick turbot, the fat brill, and the old carp. The swallow could describe all that very well. But self is the man, she said. One ought to see these things, oneself. But how was the Dryad ever to see such beings? She was obliged to be satisfied with being able to look over the beautiful country and see the busy industry of men. It was glorious, but most glorious of all, when the old clergyman sat under the oak tree and talked of France, and of the great deeds of her sons and daughters, whose names will be mentioned with admiration through all time. Then the Dryad heard of the shepherd girl, Joan of Arc, and of Charlotte Corday. She heard about Henry IV and Napoleon I. She heard names whose echo sounds in the hearts of the people. The village children listened attentively, and the Dryad no less attentively. She became a school child with the rest. In the clouds that went sailing by, she saw, picture by picture, everything that she heard talked about. The cloudy sky was her picture book. She felt so happy in beautiful France, the fruitful land of genius, with the crater of freedom. But in her heart, the sting remained that the bird, that every animal that could fly, was much better off than she. Even the fly could look about more in the world, far beyond the Dryad's horizon. France was so great and so glorious, but she could only look across a little piece of it. The land stretched out worldwide with vineyards, forests, and great cities. Of all these, Paris was the most splendid and the mightiest. The birds could get there, but she never. Among the village children was a little ragged, poor girl, but a pretty one to look at. She was always laughing or singing and twining red flowers in her black hair. "Don't go to Paris," the old clergyman warned her. "Poor child. If you go there, it will be your ruin." But she went for all that. The Dryad often thought of her, for she had the same wish and felt the same longing for the great city. The Dryad's tree was bearing its first chestnut blossoms. The birds were twittering round them in the most beautiful sunshine. Then a stately carriage came rolling along that way, and in it sat a grand lady driving the spirited, light-footed horses. On the back seat, a little smart groom balanced himself. The Dryad knew the lady, and the old clergyman knew her also. He shook his head gravely when he saw her and said, "So you went there after all, and it was your ruin, poor Mary." "That one poor?" thought the Dryad. "No, she wears a dress fit for a countess. She had become one in the city of magic changes. Oh, if I were only there, amid all the splendor and pomp. They shine up into the very clouds at night. When I look up, I can tell in what direction the town lies." Towards that direction, the Dryad looked every evening. She saw in the dark night the gleaming cloud on the horizon. In the clear moonlight, nights she missed the sailing clouds, which showed her pictures of the city and pictures from history. The child grasps at the picture books. The Dryad grasped at the cloud world, her thought book. A sudden, cloudless sky was for her a blank leaf, and for several days she had only had such leaves before her. It was in the warm summertime. Not a breeze moved through the glowing hot days. Every leaf, every flower, lay as if it were torpid, and the people seemed torpid too. Then the clouds arose and covered the region round about where the gleaming mist announced, "Here lies Paris." The clouds piled themselves up like a chain of mountains, hurried on through the air, and spread themselves abroad over the whole landscape, as far as the Dryad's eye could reach. Like enormous blue-black blocks of rock, the clouds lay piled over one another. Gleams of lightning shot forth from them. "These also are the servants of the Lord God," the old clergyman had said. And there came a bluish, dazzling flash of lightning, a lighting up as if of the sun itself, which could burst blocks of rock asunder. The lightning struck and split to the roots the old venerable oak. The crown fell asunder. It seemed as if the tree were stretching forth its arms to clasp the messengers of the light. No bronze cannon can sound over the land at the birth of a royal child, as the thunder sounded at the death of the old oak. The rain streamed down. A refreshing wind was blowing. The storm had gone by, and there was quite a holiday glow on all things. The old clergyman spoke a few words for honorable remembrance, and a painter made a drawing as a lasting record of the tree. "Everything passes away," said the Dryad, "passes away like a cloud, and never comes back." The old clergyman, too, did not come back. The green roof of his school was gone, and his teaching chair had vanished. The children did not come, but autumn came, and winter came, and then spring also. In all this change of seasons, the Dryad looked toward the region where, at night, Paris gleamed with its bright mist far on the horizon. Forth from the town rushed engine after engine, train after train, whistling and screaming at all hours in the day. In the evening, towards midnight, at daybreak, and all the day through, came the trains. Out of each one, and into each one, streamed people from the country of every king. A new wonder of the world had summoned them to Paris. In what form did this wonder exhibit itself? "A splendid blossom of art and industry," said one, "has unfolded itself in the Champ de Mars, a gigantic sunflower from whose petals one can learn geography and statistics, and can become as wise as a Lord Mayor, and raise oneself to the level of art and poetry, and study the greatness and power of the various lands." "A fairy tale flower," said another, "a many-colored lotus plant, which spreads out its green leaves like a velvet carpet over the sand. The opening spring has brought it forth. The summer will see it in all its splendor. The autumn winds will sweep it away, so that not a leaf, not a fragment of its root shall remain." In front of the military school extends in time of peace the arena of war, a field without a blade of grass, a piece of sandy steppe, as if cut out of the desert of Africa, where Fata Morgana displays her wondrous airy castles and hanging gardens. In the Champ de Mars, however, these were to be seen more splendid, more wonderful than in the East, for human art had converted the airy, deceptive scenes into reality. The Aladdin's palace of the present has been built, it was said. Day by day, hour by hour, it unfolds more of its wonderful splendor. The endless halls shine in marble and many colors. Master Bloodless here moves his limbs of steel and iron in the great circular hall of machinery. Works of art in metal, in stone, in Gobelin's tapestry announce the vitality of mind that is stirring in every land. Halls of paintings, splendor of flowers, everything that mind and skill can create in the workshop of the artisan has been placed here for show. Even the memorials of ancient days, out of old graves and turf moors, have appeared at this general meeting. The overpowering, great, variegated whole must be divided into small portions and pressed together like a plaything, if it is to be understood and described. Like a great table on Christmas Eve, the Champ de Mars carried a wonder castle of industry and art. And around this knickknacks from all countries had been ranged. Knickknacks on a grand scale, for every nation found some remembrance of home. Here stood the royal palace of Egypt, there the caravanserai of the desert land. The Bedouin had quitted his sunny country and hastened by on his camel. Here stood the Russian stables with the fiery, glorious horses of the steppe. Here stood the simple, straw-thatched dwelling of the Danish peasant, with the Dannebrog flag, next to Gustavus Vasa's wooden house from Dalarne, with its wonderful carvings. American huts, English cottages, French pavilions, kiosks, theaters, churches, all strewn around, and between them, the fresh green turf, the clear springing water, blooming bushes, rare trees, hothouses, in which one might fancy one's self transported into the tropical forest, whole gardens brought from Damascus, and blooming under one roof. What colors, what fragrance! Artificial grottos surrounded bodies of fresh or salt water, and gave a glimpse into the empire of the fishes. The visitor seemed to wander at the bottom of the sea among fishes and polypi. All this, they said, the Champ de Mars offers. And around the great, richly spread table, the crowd of human beings moves like a busy swarm of ants, on foot or in little carriages, for not all feet are equal to such a fatiguing journey. Hither they swarm from morning till late in the evening. Steamer after steamer, crowded with people, glides down the Seine. The number of carriages is continually on the increase. The swarm of people on foot and on horseback grows more and more dense. Carriages and omnibuses are crowded, stuffed, and embroidered with people. All these tributary streams flow in one direction towards the exhibition. On every entrance, the flag of France is displayed. Around the world's bazaar wave the flags of all nations. There is a humming and a murmuring from the hall of the machines. From the towers, the melody of the chimes is heard. With the tones of the organs in the churches mingle the hoarse nasal songs from the cafes of the East. It is a kingdom of Babel, a wonder of the world. In very truth it was. That's what all the reports said. And who did not hear them? The Dryad knew everything that is told here of the new wonder in the city of cities. Fly away, ye birds, fly away to sea, and then come back and tell me, said the Dryad. The wish became an intense desire, became the one thought of a life. Then, in the quiet, silent night, while the full moon was shining, the Dryad saw a spark fly out of the moon's disk and fizzle like a shooting star. And before the tree, whose leaves waved to and fro as if they were stirred by a tempest, stood a noble, mighty, and grand figure, in tones that were at once rich and strong, like the trumpet of the last judgment, bidding farewell to life, and summoning to the great account. It said, "Thou shalt go to the city of magic. Thou shalt take root there, and enjoy the mighty rushing breezes, the air, and the sunshine there. But the time of thy life shall then be shortened. The line of years that awaited thee here amid the free nature shall shrink to but a small tale. Poor Dryad, it shall be thy destruction. Thy yearning and longing will increase. Thy desire will grow more stormy. The tree itself will be as a prison to thee. Thou wilt quit thy cell and give up thy nature to fly out and mingle among men. Then the years that would have belonged to thee will be contracted to half the span of the ephemeral fly that lives but a day, one night, and thy life taper shall be blown out. The leaves of the tree will wither and be blown away, to become green never again." Thus the words sounded, and the light vanished away, but not the longing of the Dryad. She trembled in the wild fever of expectation. "I shall go there," she cried rejoicingly. "Life is beginning and swells like a cloud. Nobody knows whither it is hastening." When the gray dawn arose and the moon turned pale and the clouds were tinted red, the wished-for hour struck. The words of promise were fulfilled. People appeared with spades and poles. They dug round the roots of the tree, deeper and deeper, and beneath it, a wagon was brought out, drawn by many horses, and the tree was lifted up, with its roots and the lumps of earth that adhered to them. Matting was placed around the roots, as though the tree had its feet in a warm bag. And now the tree was lifted on the wagon and secured with chains. The journey began, the journey to Paris. There the tree was to grow as an ornament to the city of French glory. The twigs and the leaves of the chestnut tree trembled in the first moments of its being moved, and the Dryad trembled in the pleasurable feeling of expectation. "Away, away," it sounded in every beat of her pulse. "Away, away," sounded in words that flew trembling along. The Dryad forgot to bid farewell to the regions of home. She thought not of the waving grass and of the innocent daisies which had looked up to her as to a great lady, a young princess playing at being a shepherdess out in the open air. The chestnut tree stood upon the wagon and nodded his branches. Whether this meant farewell or forward, the Dryad knew not. She dreamed only of the marvelous new things that seemed yet so familiar. and that were to unfold themselves before her. No child's heart rejoicing in innocence, no heart whose blood danced with passion, had set out on the journey to Paris more full of expectation than she. Her farewell sounded in the words, "Away, away." The wheels turned, the distant approached, the present vanished. The region was changed, even as the clouds change. New vineyards, forests, villages, villas appeared, came nearer, vanished. The chestnut tree moved forward, and the Dryad went with it. Steam engine after steam engine rushed past, sending up into the air vapory clouds that formed figures which told of Paris, whence they came, and whither the Dryad was going. Everything around knew it, and must know whither she was bound. It seemed to her as if every tree she passed stretched out its leaves towards her, with the prayer, "Take me with you, take me with you." For every tree enclosed a longing Dryad. What changes during this flight? Houses seemed to be rising out of the earth, more and more, thicker and thicker. The chimneys rose like flower pots ranged side by side, or in rows, one above the other, on the roofs. Great inscriptions in letters a yard long, and figures in various colors, covering the walls from cornice to basement, came brightly out. "Where does Paris begin? And when shall I be there?" asked the Dryad. The crowd of people grew. The tumult and the bustle increased. Carriage followed upon carriage. People on foot and people on horseback were mingled together. All around were shops on shops, music and song, crying and talking. The Dryad, in her tree, was now in the midst of Paris. The great, heavy wagon all at once stopped on a little square planted with trees. The high houses around had all of them balconies to the windows, from which the inhabitants looked down upon the young, fresh chestnut tree, which was coming to be planted here as a substitute for the dead tree that lay stretched on the ground. The passers-by stood still and smiled in admiration of its pure vernal freshness. The older trees, whose buds were still closed, whispered with their waving branches, "Welcome, welcome." The fountain, throwing its jet of water high up in the air, to let it fall again in the wide stone basin, told the wind to sprinkle the newcomer with pearly drops, as if it wished to give him a refreshing draught to welcome him. The Dryad felt how her tree was being lifted from the wagon to be placed in the spot where it was to stand. The roots were covered with earth, and fresh turf was laid on top. Blooming shrubs and flowers in pots were ranged around, and thus a little garden arose in the square, the tree that had been killed by the fumes of gas, the steam of kitchens, and the bad air of the city, was put upon the wagon and driven away. The passers-by looked on. Children and old men sat upon the bench and looked at the green tree. And we who are telling this story stood upon a balcony and looked down upon the green spring sight that had been brought in from the fresh country air, and said what the old clergyman would have said, "Poor Dryad. I am happy. I am happy," the Dryad cried, rejoicing. And yet I cannot realize, cannot describe what I feel. Everything is as I fancied it, and yet as I did not fancy it. The houses stood there, so lofty, so close. The sunlight shone on only one of the walls, and that one was stuck over with bills and placards, before which the people stood still, and this made a crowd. Carriages rushed past, carriages rolled past, light ones and heavy ones mingled together. Omnibuses, those overcrowded moving houses, came rattling by. Horsemen galloped among them. Even carts and wagons asserted their rights. The Dryad asked herself if these high-grown houses, which stood so close around her, would not remove and take other shapes, like the clouds in the sky, and draw aside, so that she might cast a glance into Paris and over it. Notre Dame must show itself, the Vendôme column, and the wondrous building which had called and was still calling so many strangers to the city. But the houses did not stir from their places. It was yet day when the lamps were lit. The gas jets gleamed from the shops and shone even into the branches of the trees, so that it was like sunlight in summer. The stars above made their appearance, the same to which the Dryad had looked up in her home. She thought she felt a clear, pure stream of air which went forth from them. She felt herself lifted up and strengthened, and felt an increased power of seeing through every leaf and through every fiber of the root. Amid all the noise and the turmoil, the colors and the lights, she knew herself watched by mild eyes. From the side streets sounded the merry notes of fiddles and wind instruments. Up, to the dance, to the dance, to jollity and pleasure. That was their invitation. Such music it was that horses, carriages, trees, and houses would have danced if they had known how. The charm of intoxicating delight filled the bosom of the Dryad. How glorious, how splendid it is, she cried rejoicingly. Now I am in Paris. The next day that dawned, the next night that fell, offered the same spectacle, similar bustle, similar life, changing, indeed, yet always the same. And thus it went on through the sequence of days. Now I know every tree, every flower on the square here. I know every house, every balcony, every shop in this narrow cut-off corner where I am denied the sight of this great, mighty city. Where are the arches of triumph, the boulevards, the wondrous building of the world? I see nothing of all this. As if shut up in a cage, I stand among the high houses, which I now know by heart, with their inscriptions, signs, and placards. All the painted confectionery that is no longer to my taste. Where are all the things of which I heard, for which I longed, and for whose sake I wanted to come hither? What have I seized, found, won? I feel the same longing I felt before. I feel that there is a life I should wish to grasp and to experience. I must go out into the ranks of living men and mingle among them. I must fly about like a bird. I must see and feel and become human altogether. I must enjoy the one half-day instead of vegetating for years in everyday sameness and weariness, in which I become ill and at last sink and disappear like the dew on the meadows. I will gleam like the cloud, gleam in the sunshine of life, look out over the whole like the cloud, and pass away like it. No one knoweth whither. Thus sighed the Dryad, and she prayed, "Take from me the years that were destined for me, and give me but half of the life of the ephemeral fly. Deliver me from my prison. Give me human life, human happiness, only a short span, only the one night, if it cannot be otherwise. And then punish me for my wish to live, my longing for life. Strike me out of thy list. Let my shell, the fresh young tree, wither or be hewn down and burnt to ashes and scattered to all the winds." A rustling went through the leaves of the tree. There was a trembling in each of the leaves. It seemed as if fire streamed through it. A gust of wind shook its green crown, and from the midst of that crown, a female figure came forth. In the same moment, she was sitting beneath the brightly illuminated leafy branches, young and beautiful to behold, like poor Mary, to whom the clergyman had said, "The great city will be thy destruction." The Dryad sat at the foot of the tree at her house door, which she had locked, and whose key had thrown away. So young, so fair. The stars saw her and blinked at her. The gas lamps saw her and gleamed and beckoned to her. How delicate she was, and yet how blooming. A child, and yet a grown maiden. Her dress was fine as silk, green as the freshly opened leaves on the crown of the tree. In her nut-brown hair clung a half-opened chestnut blossom. She looked like the goddess of spring. For one short minute, she sat motionless. Then she sprang up, and light as a gazelle, she hurried away. She ran and sprang like the reflection from the mirror that, carried by the sunshine, is cast, now here, now there. Could anyone have followed her with his eyes, he would have seen how marvelously her dress and her form changed, according to the nature of the house or the place whose light happened to shine upon her. She reached the boulevards. Here a sea of light streamed forth from the gas flames of the lamps, the shops, and the cafes. Here stood in a row young and slender trees, each of which concealed its Dryad and gave shade from the artificial sunlight. The whole vast pavement was one great festive hall where covered tables stood laden with refreshments of all kinds, from champagne and chartreuse down to coffee and beer. Here was an exhibition of flowers, statues, books, and colored stuffs. From the crowd close by the lofty houses, she looked forth over the terrific stream beyond the rows of trees. Yonder heaved a stream of rolling carriages, cabriolets, coaches, omnibuses, cabs, and among them riding gentlemen and marching troops. To cross to the opposite shore was an undertaking fraught with danger to life and limb. Now, lanterns shed their radiance abroad. Now the gas had the upper hand. Suddenly, a rocket rises. Whence? Whither? Here are sounds of soft Italian melodies. Yonder, Spanish songs are sung, accompanied by the rattle of the castanets. But strongest of all, and predominating over the rest, the street organ tunes of the moment, the exciting can-can music, which Orpheus never knew, and which was never heard by the belle Helene. Even the barrow was tempted to hop upon one of its wheels. The Dryad danced, floated, flew, changing her color every moment, like a hummingbird in the sunshine. Each house, with the world belonging to it, gave her its own reflections. As the glowing lotus flower, torn from its stem, is carried away by the stream, so the Dryad drifted along. Whenever she paused, she was another being, so that none was able to follow her, to recognize her, or to look more closely at her. Like cloud pictures, all things flew by her. She looked into 1,000 faces, but not one was familiar to her. She saw not a single form from home. 2 bright eyes had remained in her memory. She thought of Mary, poor Mary, the ragged Mary child, who wore the red flowers in her black hair. Mary was now here in the world city, rich and magnificent, as in that day when she drove past the house of the old clergyman and past the tree of the Dryad, the old oak. Here she was certainly living, in the deafening tumult, Perhaps she had just stepped out of one of the gorgeous carriages in waiting. Handsome equipages with coachmen in gold braid and footmen in silken hose drove up. The people who alighted from them were all richly dressed ladies. They went through the opened gate and ascended the broad staircase that led to a building resting on marble pillars. Was this building perhaps the wonder of the world? There Mary would certainly be found. Sancta Maria resounded from the interior. Incense floated through the lofty painted and gilded aisles where a solemn twilight reigned. It was the church of the Madeleine. Clad in black garments of the most costly stuffs, fashioned according to the latest mode, the rich, feminine world of Paris glided across the shining pavement. The crests of the proprietors were engraved on silver shields, on the velvet-bound prayer books, and embroidered in the corners of perfumed handkerchiefs bordered with Brussels lace. A few of the ladies were kneeling in silent prayer before the altars. Others resorted to the confessionals. Anxiety and fear took possession of the Dryad. She felt as if she had entered a place where she had no right to be. Here was the abode of Gellants, the Hall of Secrets. Everything was said in whispers. Every word was a mystery. The Dryad saw herself enveloped in lace and silk, like the women of wealth and of high birth around her. Had perhaps every one of them a longing in her breast, like the Dryad. A deep, painful sigh was heard. Did it escape from some confessional in a distant corner, or from the bosom of the Dryad? She drew the veil closer around her. She breathed incense and not the fresh air. Here was not the abiding place of her longing. Away, away, a hastening without rest. The ephemeral fly knows not repose, for her existence is flight. She was out again among the gas candelabra by a magnificent fountain. All its streaming waters are not able to wash out the innocent blood that was spilt here. Such were the words spoken. Strangers stood around, carrying on a lively conversation, such as no one would have dared to carry on in the gorgeous Hall of Secrets whence the Dryad came. A heavy stone slab was turned and then lifted. She did not understand why. She saw an opening that led into the depths below. The strangers stepped down, leaving the starlit air and the cheerful life of the upper world behind them. "I am afraid," said one of the women who stood around to her husband. "I cannot venture to go down, nor do I care for the wonders down yonder. You had better stay here with me." "Indeed, and travel home," said the man, "and quit Paris without having seen the most wonderful thing of all, the real wonder of the present period, created by the power and resolution of one man. I will not go down for all that, was the reply. The wonder of the present time, it had been called. The Dryad had heard and had understood it. The goal of her ardent longing had thus been reached, and here was the entrance to it. Down into the depths below Paris? She had not thought of such a thing, but now she heard it said, and saw the strangers descending, and went after them. The staircase was of cast iron, spiral, broad and easy. Below there burned a lamp, and farther down, another. They stood in a labyrinth of endless halls and arched passages, all communicating with each other. All the streets and lanes of Paris were to be seen here again, as in a dim reflection. The names were painted up, and every house above had its number down here also, and struck its roots under the macadamized quays of a broad canal in which the muddy water flowed onward. Over it, the fresh, streaming water was carried on arches, and quite at the top hung the tangled net of gas pipes and telegraph wires. In the distance, lamps gleamed, like a reflection from the world city above. Every now and then, a dull rumbling was heard. This came from the heavy wagons rolling over the entrance bridges. Whither had the Dryad come? You have, no doubt, heard of the catacombs? Now they are vanishing points in that new underground world, that wonder of the present day, the sewers of Paris. The Dryad was there, and not in the world's exhibition in the Champ de Mars. She heard exclamations of wonder and admiration. From here go forth health and life for thousands upon thousands up yonder. Our time is the time of progress, with its manifold blessings. Such was the opinion and the speech of men, but not of those creatures who had been born here, and who built and dwelt here, of the rats, namely, who were squeaking to one another in the clefts of a crumbling wall, quite plainly. And in a way, the Dryad understood well. A big old father rat, with his tail bitten off, was relieving his feelings in loud squeaks, and his family gave their tribute of concurrence to every word he said. I am disgusted with this man mewing, he cried, with these outbursts of ignorance, a fine magnificence, truly, all made up of gas and petroleum. I can't eat such stuff as that. Everything here is so fine and bright now that one's ashamed of oneself without exactly knowing why. Ah, if we only lived in the days of tallow candles. And it does not lie so very far behind us. That was a romantic time, as one may say. What are you talking of there? Asked the Dryad. I have never seen you before. What is it you are talking about? Of the glorious days that are gone, said the rat. Of the happy time of our great grandfathers and great-grandmothers. Then it was a great thing to get down here. That was a rat's nest, quite different from Paris. Mother Plague used to live here then. She killed people, but never rats. Robbers and smugglers could breathe freely here. Here was the meeting place of the most interesting personages, whom one now only gets to see in the theaters, where they act melodrama up above. The time of romance is gone, even in our rat's nest. And here also fresh air and petroleum have broken in. Thus squeaked the rat. He squeaked in honor of the old time when Mother Plague was still alive. A carriage stopped, a kind of open omnibus drawn by swift horses. The company mounted and drove away along the Boulevard de Sebastopol, that is to say, the underground boulevard, over which the well-known crowded street of that name extended. The carriage disappeared in the twilight. The Dryad disappeared, lifted to the cheerful freshness above. Here, and not below in the vaulted passages, filled with heavy air, the wonder-work must be found which she was to seek in her short lifetime. It must gleam brighter than all the gas flames, stronger than the moon that was just gliding past. Yes, certainly. She saw it yonder in the distance. It gleamed before her, and twinkled and glittered like the evening star in the sky. She saw a glittering portal open that led to a little garden where all was brightness and dance music. Colored lamps surrounded little lakes in which were water plants of colored metal, from whose flowers jets of water spurted up. Beautiful weeping willows, real products of spring, hung their fresh branches over these lakes like a fresh, green, transparent, and yet screening veil. In the bushes burnt an open fire, throwing a red twilight over the quiet huts of branches into which the sounds of music penetrated. An ear-tickling, intoxicating music that sent the blood coursing through the veins. Beautiful girls in festive attire, with pleasant smiles on their coupes, and the light spirit of youth in their hearts. Marys, with roses in their hair, but without carriage and postilion, flitted to and fro in the wild dance. Where were the heads? Where the feet? As if stung by tarantulas, they sprang, laughed, rejoiced, as if in their ecstasies they were going to embrace all the world. The Dryad felt herself torn with them into the whirl of the dance. Round her delicate foot clung the silken boot, chestnut brown in color, like the ribbon that floated from her hair down upon her bare shoulders. The green silk dress waved in large folds, but did not entirely hide the pretty foot and ankle. Had she come to the enchanted Garden of Armida? What was the name of the place? The name glittered in gas jets over the entrance. It was Mabille, the soaring upwards of rockets the splashing of fountains, and the popping of champagne corks accompanied the wild, bacchantic dance. Over the whole glided the moon through the air, clear, but with a somewhat crooked face. A wild joviality seemed to rush through the Dryad, as though she were intoxicated with opium. Her eyes spoke, her lips spoke, but the sound of violins and of flutes drowned the sound of her voice. Her partner whispered words to her which she did not understand, nor do we understand them. He stretched out his arms to draw her to him, but he embraced only the empty air. The Dryad had been carried away like a rose leaf on the wind. Before her, she saw a flame in the air, a flashing light high up on a tower. The beacon light shone from the goal of her longing, shone from the red lighthouse tower of the Fata Morgana of the Champ de Mars. Thither she was carried by the wind. She circled round the tower. The workmen thought it was a butterfly that had come too early, and that now sank down dying. The moon shone bright. Gas lamps spread light around, through the halls, over the all-worlds buildings scattered about, over the rose hills and the rocks produced by human ingenuity, from which waterfalls, driven by the power of Master Bloodless, fell down. The caverns of the sea, the depths of the lakes, the kingdom of the fishes were opened here. Men walked as in the depths of the deep pond, and held converse with the sea, in the diving bell of glass. The water pressed against the strong glass walls, above and on every side. The polypi, eel-like living creatures, had fastened themselves to the bottom, and stretched out arms, fathoms long, for prey. A big turbot was making himself broad in front, quietly enough, but not without casting some suspicious glances aside. A crab clambered over him, looking like a gigantic spider, while the shrimps wandered about in restless haste, like the butterflies and moths of the sea. In the fresh water grew water lilies, nymphea, and reeds. The goldfishes stood up below in rank and file, all turning their heads one way, that the streaming water might flow into their mouths. Fat carps stared at the glass wall with stupid eyes. They knew that they were here to be exhibited, and that they had made the somewhat toilsome journey hither in tubs filled with water, and they thought with dismay of the land sickness from which they had suffered so cruelly on the railway. They had come to see the exhibition, and now contemplated it from their fresh or saltwater position. They looked attentively at the crowds of people who passed by them early and late. All the nations in the world, they thought, had made an exhibition of their inhabitants for the edification of the soles and haddocks, pike and carp, that they might give their opinions upon the different kinds. Those are scaly animals, said a little slimy whiting. They put on different scales 2 or 3 times a day, and they emit sounds which they call speaking. We don't put on scales, and we make ourselves understood in an easier way, simply by twitching the corners of our mouths and staring with our eyes. We have a great many advantages over mankind. But they have learned swimming of us, remarked a well-educated codling. You must know I come from the great sea outside. In the hot time of the year, the people yonder go into the water. First they take off their scales, and then they swim. They have learnt from the frogs to kick out with their hind legs and row with their forepaws, but they cannot hold out long. They want to be like us, but they cannot come up to us. Poor people. And the fishes stared. They thought that the whole swarm of people whom they had seen in the bright daylight were still moving around them. They were certain they still saw the same forms that had first caught their attention. A pretty barbell with spotted skin and an enviably round back declared that the human fry were still there. I can see a well set up human figure quite well, said the barbell. She was called Contumacious Lady, or something of that kind. She had a mouth and staring eyes like ours, and a great balloon at the back of her head, and something like a shut-up umbrella in front. There were a lot of dangling bits of seaweed hanging about her. She ought to take all the rubbish off and go as we do. Then she would look something like a respectable barbell, so far as it is possible for a person to look like one. What's become of that one whom they drew away with the hook? He sat on a wheelchair and had paper and pen and ink and wrote down everything. They called him a writer. They're going about with him still, said a hoary old maid of a carp who carried her misfortune about with her, so that she was quite hoarse. In her youth, she had once swallowed a hook, and still swam patiently about with it in her gullet. A writer? That means, as we fishes describe it, a kind of cuttle or ink fish among men. Thus the fishes gossiped in their own way. But in the artificial water grotto, the laborers were busy, who were obliged to take advantage of the hours of night to get their work done by daybreak. They accompanied with blows of their hammers and with songs the parting words of the vanishing Dryad. So, at any rate, I have seen you, you pretty gold fishes, she said. Yes, I know you. And she waved her hand to them. I have known about you a long time in my home. The swallow told me about you. How beautiful you are, how delicate and shining. I should like to kiss every one of you. You others also. I know you all, but you do not know me. The fishes stared out into the twilight. They did not understand a word of it. The Dryad was there no longer. She had been a long time in the open air, where the different countries, the country of black bread, the codfish coast, the kingdom of Russia leather, and the banks of eau de cologne, and the gardens of rose oil, exhaled their perfumes from the world wonder flower. When, after a night at a ball, we drive home half asleep and half awake, the melodies still sound plainly in our ears. We hear them and could sing them all from memory. When the eye of the murdered man closes, the picture of what it saw last clings to it for a time like a photographic picture. So it was likewise here. The bustling life of day had not yet disappeared in the quiet night. The Dryad had seen it. She knew, thus it will be repeated tomorrow. The Dryad stood among the fragrant roses and thought she knew them and had seen them in her own home. She also saw red pomegranate flowers, like those that little Mary had worn in her dark hair. Remembrances from the home of her childhood flashed through her thoughts. Her eyes eagerly drank in the prospect around, and feverish restlessness chased her through the wonder-filled halls. A weariness that increased continually took possession of her. She felt a longing to rest on the soft oriental carpets within, or to lean against the weeping willow without by the clear water. But for the ephemeral fly, there was a rest. In a few moments, the day had completed its circle. Her thoughts trembled, her limbs trembled. She sank down on the grass by the bubbling water. "Thou wilt ever spring living from the earth," she said mournfully. "Moisten my tongue, bring me a refreshing draught." "I am no living water," was the answer. "I only spring upward when the machine wills it. Give me something of thy freshness, thou green grass," implored the Dryad. "Give me one of thy fragrant flowers." "We must die if we are torn from our stalks," replied the flowers and the grass. "Give me a kiss, thou fresh stream of air, only a single life kiss." "Soon the sun will kiss the clouds red," answered the wind. "Then thou wilt be among the dead, blown away, as all the splendor here will be blown away before the year shall have ended. Then I can play again with the light, loose sand on the place here, and whirl the dust over the land and through the air. All is dust." The Dryad felt a terror, like a woman who has cut asunder her pulse artery in the bath, but is filled again with the love of life, even while she is bleeding to death. She raised herself, tottered forward a few steps, and sank down again at the entrance to a little church. The gate stood open. Lights were burning upon the altar, and the organ sounded. What music! Such notes the Dryad had never yet heard. and yet it seemed to her as if she recognized a number of well-known voices among them. They came deep from the heart of all creation. She thought she heard the stories of the old clergyman, of great deeds, and of the celebrated names, and of the gifts that the creatures of God must bestow upon posterity if they would live on in the world. The tones of the organ swelled, and in their song there sounded these words: "Thy wishing and thy longing have torn thee with thy roots from the place which God appointed for thee. That was thy destruction, thou poor Dryad." The notes became soft and gentle and seemed to die away in a wail. In the sky, the clouds showed themselves with a ruddy gleam. The wind sighed. "Pass away, ye dead. Now the sun is going to rise." The first ray fell on the Dryad. Her form was irradiated in changing colors, like the soap bubble when it is bursting and becomes a drop of water, like a tear that falls and passes away like a vapor. Poor Dryad. Only a dewdrop, only a tear poured upon the earth and vanished away. The rags outside the great paper mill, the air smelled faintly of dust, ink, and the memory of words yet unborn. In long, uneven hills lay enormous stacks of rags, mountains of fabric once belonging to the living world. There were remnants of tablecloths from wedding feasts, curtains from forgotten parlors, shirts that had embraced the warmth of men and women, now turned to dust, and handkerchiefs that had soaked up both laughter and tears. They came from every corner of the land, from ships, cottages, palaces, and hospitals alike. Each rag had its own tale to whisper, its own thread of destiny. If one had the ears of imagination, one could almost hear them murmuring together when the wind passed through the heaps. An orchestra of faded voices, each telling of its brief moment in the great play of life. But no one could possibly listen to all their stories. Even the mill itself seemed weary of so many memories. Near the edge of the yard, two rags found themselves side by side, one Danish, the other Norwegian. The Danish rag was a soft, well-worn linen, once a scholar's shirt. The Norwegian, rougher and sturdier, had served as a fisherman's sailcloth. Though their threads were frayed and their colors faded, both still carried a sense of pride, for even a rag can remember what it once was. "Ah," said the Norwegian, rustling with a brisk northern confidence, "I am Norse, firm of fiber, bred from the mountains and the sea spray. You can feel the granite in my weave. We Norwegians speak straight and free, as the wind howls through our fjords. Our tongue is as pure and cold as the springs that burst from the glacier's heart." The Danish rag chuckled softly, its texture smooth as if worn by centuries of polite conversation. "And we Danes," it said, with gentle irony, "we have literature, poetry, philosophy, a little wit, and perhaps even a touch of melancholy. We may not shout from mountaintops, but our words ripple like calm waters, deep and steady." "Literature," scoffed the Norwegian. "Empty chatter from the lowlands. When your sun melts our snows, your barges creep up to us with cheese and butter, good enough things to eat. But they also bring that literature of yours as ballast. Keep it. We have our own voice, loud and free. You don't need to drink from another's stale beer when your own mountain spring runs fresh." The Danish rag smiled again, refusing to take offense. "Perhaps," it said, "but there is beauty even in modest words. We Danes don't boast. We enter quietly, with patience. We envy no one. We speak well of everyone. And though the world may overlook us, we know our worth, silently, politely, without fuss. I find it rather becoming." The Norwegian rag flapped indignantly in a gust of wind. "Your softness makes me ill. You lowland cloth, a rag without rock or storm. You think too small and talk too sweetly. Bah!" And with that, the northern wind, always eager to side with its own kind, lifted the Norwegian rag and carried it fluttering to another heap, where it might rest among coarser company. Time passed. Rain came and went, soaking the heaps until they smelled of earth and memory. Then one day, the rags were gathered up and carried inside the mill. The great machines roared and churned, tearing, washing, grinding, until no thread remembered its former life. Out of the chaos came something new. White sheets of paper, smooth and waiting. And see how curious fate can be. The Norwegian rag became a fine page on which a young man from Bergen wrote a trembling letter to his beloved, a Danish girl he had met while traveling abroad. He poured his heart onto that page, confessing that though the sea lay between their homelands, his soul would forever be bound to hers. Meanwhile, the Danish rag was turned into another sheet, one that found its way beneath the pen of a Danish poet. And what did he write? A poem about the northern lights, about the proud peaks of Norway and the steadfastness of its people. Words of admiration glowing like aurora across the paper's pale surface. Thus, by the alchemy of life and art, the two quarrelsome rags were reconciled. They who had once bickered in the dust of the paper yard now served together in harmony. The letter of love and the poem of praise. When both sheets had fulfilled their purpose, they were folded tenderly and kept side by side in a drawer, resting once again in quiet companionship. If they could still speak, They would surely laugh at their former quarrel and agree that even rags, when given a second life, may become instruments of beauty and peace. And that is the whole story. Harmless, a little humorous, and true enough to make one smile. Only the rags, perhaps, might take offense. The comet. Now there came a comet with its shiny nucleus and its menacing tail. People from the great castles and people from the poor huts gazed at it. So did the crowd in the street. And so did the man who went his solitary way across the pathless heath. Everyone had his own thoughts. Come and look at the omen from heaven. Come out and see this marvelous sight, they cried. And everyone hastened to look. But a little boy and his mother still stayed inside their room. The tallow candle was burning, and the mother thought she saw a bit of wood shaving in the light. The tallow formed a jagged edge around the candle, and then it curled. The mother believed these were signs that her son would soon die. The wood shaving was circling toward him. This was an old superstition, but she believed it. The little boy lived many more years on Earth. Indeed, he lived to see the comet return 60 years later. The boy did not see the wood shaving in the candlelight, and his thoughts were not about the comet, which then, for the first time in his life, shone brightly in the sky. He sat quietly with an earthenware bowl before him. The bowl was filled with soapy water, into which he dipped the head of a clay pipe. Then he put the pipe stem in his mouth and blew soap bubbles, large and small. They quivered and spun in beautiful colors. They changed from yellow to red, and from red to purple or blue, and then they turned bright green, like leaves when the sun shines through them. The boy's mother said, "May God grant you many more years on Earth, as many years as the bubbles you are blowing." So many, he cried. "I can never blow all the soapy water into bubbles. There goes 1 year, there goes another one. See how they fly," he exclaimed, as bubbles came loose from his pipe and floated away. A few of them blew into his eye, where they burned and smarted and made his tears flow. In every bubble, he saw a picture of the future, glimmering and glistening. "This is the time to look at the comet," cried their neighbors. "Come outdoors. Don't sit in your room." The mother took her boy by the hand. He had to put aside his clay pipe and stop playing with the soap bubbles, because there was a comet to see. The boy saw the bright ball of fire with its shining tail. Some said it was 3 yards long, while others insisted it was several million yards long. Such a difference. Most of the people who said these things were dead and buried when the comet came again. But the little boy toward whom the wood shaving had circled, and of whom his mother thought, "He will soon die," still lived on, though he had grown old, and his hair was white. White hairs are the flowers of age, the saying goes, and he had many such flowers. He was an old schoolmaster. The school children thought him very wise and learned, because he knew history and geography and all there is to be known about the heavens and the stars. "Everything comes again," he said. "If you will pay attention to people and events, you will learn that they always come back. There may be 100 years between, or many hundreds of years, but once again we shall see the same character in another coat and in another country." And the schoolmaster then told them about William Tell, who was forced to shoot an apple from his son's head. But before he shot the arrow, he hid another one in his shirt to shoot into the heart of the wicked Gessler. This happened in Switzerland. But many years before, the same thing happened in Denmark to Palnatoke. He too was forced to shoot an apple from his son's head, and he too hid an arrow in his shirt to avenge the cruelty. And more than 1,000 years before that, the same story was written in Egypt. It happened before and will happen again, just as sure as the comet returns. Off it flies into space and is gone for years, but still it comes back. He spoke of the comet that was expected, the same comet he had seen as a boy. The schoolmaster knew what went on in the skies, and he thought much about it too. But he did not neglect history and geography. His garden was laid out in the shape of a map of Denmark. In it grew herbs and flowers which flourished in different parts of the land. "Fetch me peas," he said, and they went to the garden bed that represented Laaland. "Fetch me buckwheat," he said, and they fetched it from Langeland. Lovely blue gentian was planted in Skagen, and the shining Christ thorn in Silkeborg. Towns and cities were marked with small statues. Here was the dragon and Saint Knud, who stood for Odense. Absalon, with the bishop's staff, stood for Sorrow. The little boat with oars marked the site of Aarhus. In the schoolmaster's garden, you could learn the geography of Denmark. But first, you had to be instructed by him, and that was a pleasure. Now that the comet was expected again, he told about it. And he told what people had said in the old days, when it last was seen. They had said that a comet year was a good year for wine, and that water could be mixed with this wine without being detected. Therefore, the wine merchants thought well of a comet year. For 14 days and 14 nights, the sky was clouded over. They could not see the comet, and yet it was there. The old schoolmaster sat in his little chamber next to the schoolroom. The old Bornholm clock of his grandfather's time stood in the corner, though its heavy lead weights moved neither up nor down, nor did its pendulum ever swing. The little cuckoo that used to come out to call the passing hours had long ago stopped doing his duty. The clock neither struck nor ticked. The clock was decidedly out of order, but the old clavichord at which he sat had been made in his parents' time, and it still had a tune or two left in it. The strings could still play. Tremulous though they were, they could play for him the melodies of a whole lifetime. As the old man heard them, he remembered many things, both pleasant and sad, that had happened in the long years which had gone by since he was a little boy and saw the comet. Now that the comet had come again, he remembered what his mother had said about the wood shaving circling toward him. He remembered the fine soap bubbles he had blown, one for every year of his life, he had said, as he looked at them, glistening and gleaming in wonderful colors. He saw in them all his pleasures and sorrow, everything, both the good and the bad. He saw the child at his play, and the youth with his fancies. His whole life, iridescent and bright, floated before his eyes, and in that splendor he saw his future too, in bubbles of time to come. First, the old man heard from the strings of the clavichord the melodies of times past, and saw the bubbles of years gone by, colored with memories. He heard his grandmother's knitting song. Surely no Amazon the first stockings knit. And then the strings played the songs his old nurse used to sing for him. There were so many dangers in this world to pass through for people who were young and only little knew. Now the melodies of his first ball were playing, for the minuet and Molinaski, soft melancholy tunes that brought tears to the old man's eyes. A roaring war march, then a psalm, then happy tunes. The years whirled past as if they were those bubbles he blew when he was a little boy. His eyes were turned towards the window. A cloud billowed across the sky, and as it passed, he saw the comet with its shining nucleus and its shining, misty veil. It seemed to him as though it were only yesterday evening when he had last seen that comet. Yet a whole busy lifetime lay between that evening and this. Then he was a child, looking through bubbles into the future. Now those bright bubbles were all behind him. Once more, he had a child's outlook and a child's faith. His eyes sparkled and his hands struck the keys. There was the sound of a breaking string. "Come out and see," cried his neighbors. "The comet is here, and the sky is clear. Come out and look." The old schoolmaster did not answer. He had gone where he could see more clearly. His soul was on a journey far greater than the comet's, and the realm to which it went was far more spacious than that in which the comet moved. Again, the comet was seen from the high castle and from the lowly hut. The crowd in the street gazed up at it, and so did the man who went his solitary way across the pathless heath. But the schoolmaster's soul was seen by God, and by those dear ones who had gone before him, and whom he longed to see. Sunshine stories. I shall tell you a story, whispered the wind, sweeping across the rooftops and rustling through the chimneys like a restless spirit. Kindly remember, replied the rain, her silver voice falling in patient drops, that it is my turn to speak. You have been roaring and howling around the corners for hours, blowing hats off heads and shutters off hinges. It's time you quieted down. Is that the thanks I get? Huffed the wind, puffing out his chest. Who is it that helps you make your entrance? I drive the people indoors. I tear their umbrellas asunder so your drops may reach their faces. I am your herald. Be still, sighed the sunshine, breaking through the clouds with such radiance that both wind and rain blinked and trembled. If either of you wishes to speak, let your words bring warmth, not noise. But since you quarrel, I shall take my turn, for I too have seen the world, and mine is a tale worth the hearing. And the sunshine began, in a golden tone that spread through the sky like a calm dawn after storm. The feather of fortune, a swan, pure and splendid, flew over the tumbling sea, said the sunshine. Its wings gleamed brighter than molten gold, and every beat sent ripples of light dancing across the waters. One shining feather loosed itself from that heavenly bird and drifted slowly, softly, until it landed upon the deck of a great merchant ship that sailed with all its sails unfurled. There, among the ropes and cargo, stood a young overseer, a humble supercargo whose task was to guard the merchant's goods. The golden feather brushed his brow, and as if by enchantment, became a pen in his hand. With that pen, he wrote his fate anew. Prosperity flowed wherever his ink touched parchment. The feather of fortune guided him to wealth, to honor, to a name engraved among the respected men of trade. Soon he wore golden spurs and bore a shield wrought from his own gilded dish. I know this, said the sunshine softly, for I have shone upon his prosperity. The book of the shepherd boy. The swan flew onward, continued the sunshine, over valleys and meadows washed with morning dew. In a quiet field lay a small shepherd boy, no more than 7, resting beneath the only tree that grew there, an old, knotted trunk that had seen centuries. the swan brushed past its branches, and a single leaf broke free, spinning through the air like a tiny green miracle. It fell into the boy's hands and transformed, first into 3 leaves, then 10, until he held a book, alive with the mysteries of nature and the wisdom of humankind. He read of the stars, of faith, of the tongue of his people, of the vastness of thought. And every night, before sleep closed his eyes, he placed the book beneath his pillow so that no dream could steal away what he had learned. That book led him to school, and from school to the great halls of knowledge, where one day his name was carved among the learned. "I saw his name there too," said the sunshine, "etched deep into stone that will outlast the passing of the clouds." The gift of the golden egg. Farther still flew the swan, until she reached a deep forest wrapped in silence. In its heart lay a tranquil lake, dark as sapphire and ringed with lilies. There grew wild apple trees, and the air was sweet with their scent. A poor woman was there, gathering fallen branches for her hearth. She carried a bundle of sticks upon her bent back, and in her weary arms, a small child. Suddenly, from the reeds, the swan arose, a shimmer of gold and wind. Something glinted upon the moss, a golden egg, still warm from the swan's breast. The woman placed it against her heart, and warmth flooded through her like summer returning to winter. She thought she heard a tiny tapping, or was it only her own heartbeat? When she reached her cottage, she took out the egg, marveling. It ticked softly, like a golden clock. But it was no clock. It was life itself. The shell cracked, and out came a little swan, feathered in gold, 4 small rings circling its neck. The poor woman had 4 sons, 3 older, and the baby she held. She understood the sign, 1 ring for each. The golden bird fluttered, then soared away, leaving the tokens behind. She kissed the rings and pressed them to her children's hearts. And the sunshine watched, smiling. The 4 sons. One day, the sunshine continued. As the years ripened, each boy's destiny revealed itself. The eldest, playing beside a stream, molded clay between his hands. What began as a lump became a face, a form, a vision. Jason himself, seeker of the golden fleece. Thus was born a sculptor whose touch brought marble to life. The second roamed the meadows, gathering flowers. He crushed their petals, staining his hands, his eyes, his very mind with color. From that day, the world became a palette, and his soul a brush. Men would later call him a master painter. The third, lost in thought, bit upon his ring until it sang faintly between his teeth. and that song became his life. Melodies flowed from him as rivers from mountains. His music carried the tenderness of dawn and the thunder of storms. The world called him a great composer, and each nation claimed him as its own. The youngest, still an infant when the rings were given, grew frail and dreamful. They mocked him, called him weak, said he had the pip. But I, said the sunshine, I gave him warmth, 1,000 rays for every taunt. He grew to be a poet, one who lived between blow and kiss, sorrow and beauty. He wrote not with ink, but with light, and his verses rose like butterflies with golden wings. That was his immortality. The ring of the swan, the fisherman, and the amber. What a tedious tale, muttered the wind. And so dreadfully long, sighed the rain, shaking her droplets. I feel faint already. But the sunshine only smiled and went on. The swan of fortune flew once more, beyond the forest, beyond the fields, until it reached the wide gulf where fishermen cast their nets. There was one among them, the poorest, yet richest in hope. He dreamed of a home, of love, of peace. The swan heard him, and as she vanished over the horizon, she dropped a lump of amber into his net. Amber is the soul of sunlight made solid. It draws what is distant close. From that day forth, hearts were drawn to the fisherman's humble door. The amber burned on their hearth, and its scent rose like incense from a temple, as if heaven itself had breathed upon their home. The fisherman and his bride lived simply but joyfully. Their days were bright as the sea after rain, and thus their story, too, became one of sunshine. The wind yawned. Enough of this endless, glowing nonsense. You've talked the day away. So am I bored, complained the rain. Let's have a storm, at least. The sunshine only laughed, scattering them both with a final gleam. And those of us who have listened, what do we say? We say, now the story is told, and the light remains. Chicken Grethe's family. Chicken. Grethe was the only human tenant of the fine new house that was built for the hens and ducks on the estate. It was built where the old baronial castle had stood with its tower, crow's perch, gable, moat, and drawbridge. Close by was a complete wilderness of trees and bushes. This had been the garden, running down to a big lake, which was now a marsh. Rooks, crows, and jackdaws, a whole horde of screeching, cawing birds, hovered over the trees. The flock did not seem to diminish, but rather to increase when one fired among them. They could be heard even inside the poultry house, where Chicken Grethe sat with the ducklings, waddling about her wooden shoes. She knew each chicken and every duck from the moment it hatched. She took pride in her chickens and her ducks, and in the fine house that had been built for them. Her little room was clean and tidy. Her mistress, who owned the chicken house, insisted upon neatness, for she frequently brought distinguished visitors to see the barracks of her hens and ducks, as she called the place. She had a rocking chair and a wardrobe, and even a chest of drawers, on which stood a highly polished brass plate with the name Grube engraved on it. This was the name of the old noble family that had lived there in the days when the castle was standing. The brass plate had been found while they were digging the ground, and the parish clerk said that it had no value except as a relic. The clerk knew all about the place and the old days, for he was a scholar, and his table drawer was filled with manuscripts. He knew much about the old days, but perhaps the oldest crow knew more and jabbered it out in his own language. But that was crow talk, which the clerk did not understand, learned though he was. Toward the end of hot summer day, the mist would rise over the marsh until it looked as if there were a lake beyond the old trees where the rooks, crows, and jackdaws lived. This was how it had looked when old Sir Grub had lived there, and the castle with its massive red walls was still standing. In those days, the dog's chain used to reach clear across the gateway. By way of the tower, one came to the stone-flagged passage that led to the living quarters. The windows were narrow, and the panes quite small, even in the great hall where they used to dance. But in the days of the last Grubs, there had been no dancing for as far back as a man could remember, though an old kettle drum that had been used in the orchestra still remained in the hall. And there was also a curiously carved cupboard in which the rare flower bulbs were stored, for Lady Grub took pleasure in planting and in cultivating flowers and trees. Her husband preferred to hunt wild boars and wolves, and his little daughter, Marie, always rode with him. When she was no more than years old, she sat proudly on horseback and gazed fearlessly about with her great dark eyes. She delighted in cracking her whip among the hounds, though her father would rather have seen her lash out among the peasant boys who came to stare at the gentry. The peasant who lived in a clay hut near the castle had a son named Soren, who was of the same age as the well-born little lady. He knew how to climb trees, and he had to bring bird nests down to her. The birds screamed as loud as they could scream, and one of the largest of them struck him so hard right above his eye that blood ran down, and they thought at first that he had lost an eye, but it had not been injured. Marie Grub called him her Soren, a sign of high favor, which once served to protect even his father, poor John. When he had done something wrong one day, John was condemned to ride the wooden horse. This contrivance stood in the yard, with 4 poles for legs, and for its back a single small rail, which John had to straddle. Lest he ride it too comfortably, heavy bricks were tied to his feet. He made such agonized faces that little Soren wept and went down on his knees to beg Marie to have his father released. She instantly commanded that his father should be taken down. When she was not obeyed, Marie stamped her small feet on the flagstones and tugged at her father's coat sleeve until she tore it. She would have her way, and she got it. Soren's father was released. Lady Grub came to her, stroked her hair, and looked at her daughter with mild, approving eyes. But Marie did not understand why. She would go with the hounds, not with her mother, who went down through the garden to the lake, where the water lilies bloomed, and where the bulrushes swayed among the reeds. "How charming," Lady Grub would say, as she admired this fresh, abundant growth. A then very rare tree, which she herself had planted, grew in her garden. A blood beech, it was called, a sort of dark moor among the other trees. So dark brown were its leaves. It needed plenty of sunlight, for in constant shade its leaves would turn green, like those of other trees, and thus lose their distinction. In her tall chestnut trees, in the shrubbery, and even the grass were many bird nests. The birds seemed to understand that they were safe here, where no one dared fire a gun. But little Marie came here with Soren, who, as we know, could climb, and she sent him to bring her down both the eggs and the downy little birds. The parent birds fluttered about in terror and anguish, large and small, lapwings from the lawns, rooks, crows, and jackdaws from the tall trees. They screamed and shrieked just as their progeny shriek today. "Children, what are you doing?" the gentlewoman cried. "What a wicked thing to do." Soren looked ashamed, and even the high-born young girl looked a little embarrassed. But then she said in an abrupt and sulky way, "My father lets me do this." "Away! Away!" the black birds shrieked, and away they flew. But they came back the next day, because they lived there. But the quiet gentlewoman did not live there much longer. The Lord called her away, and with him she was more at home than ever she was in this house. The church bells solemnly tolled as her body was carried to the church, and poor men's eyes grew dim, for she had shown them kindness. And now that she was gone, no one looked after her plants, so the garden went to rack and ruin. "Sir Grubba is a hard man," people would say, "but young as she is, his daughter can handle him." He would laugh and let her have her will. She was 12 years old now, tall and well built. She looked right through people with her great dark eyes, rode her horse like a man, and shot her gun like an experienced hunter. It came to pass that great men visited that district. They were as great can be. The young king, with his half-brother and crony, Lord Ulrich Frederick Gildenlöve, they came to hunt wild boar, and they planned to stay overnight at Sir Grub's castle. At the table, when Gildenlöve sat beside Marie, he took her about the neck and gave her a kiss, just as if they had been related. But she gave him a slap in the face and told him she could not stand him. This caused great laughter, as if it were a most pleasing sight. And maybe it was, because 5 years later, when Marie was 17, Gildenlöve sent a messenger with a letter asking for her hand in marriage. That was something. He is the highest and most gallant lord in the land, said Sir Grubbe. You cannot refuse him. I don't like him much, Marie Grubbe said. But she did not turn down the highest lord in the land, who sat next to the king. Her silver, woolens, and linens were sent by ship to Copenhagen. Marie made the trip overland in 10 days, but the ship with the dowry met with contrary winds, or no wind at all. It took 4 months to reach Copenhagen, and when it did get there, Lady Gildenlöve had gone. I'd sooner lie on sacks than in his silken bed, she said. I'd sooner walk barefoot than ride in a carriage with him. Late on an evening in November, 2 women came riding into the town of Aarhus. They were Lady Gildenlöve and her maid. They came from Vejle, where they had arrived by ship from Copenhagen. They rode up to Sir Grubbe's townhouse. He was not at all pleased to see Marie. He gave her harsh words, but he did give her a bedroom. She got her beer broth for breakfast, but no good words to go with it. Her father's bad temper had turned against her, and she was not used to it. Her own temper was by no means mild. As one is spoken to, so one answers, and answer she did. Of her husband, she spoke with bitterness and hatred. She declared that she could not live with him. She was too honorable and virtuous for that. In this fashion, a year went by, most unpleasantly. Bitter words passed between father and daughter. That should not be. Bitter words bear bitter fruit. What would be the outcome? One day her father said, "We cannot live under the same roof. You must move to our old castle. I would rather you bit off your tongue than spoke lies." So they parted. With her maid, she went to the old estate where she was born and bred, and where her mother, that pious gentlewoman, lay in the churchyard vault. An old cowherd lived in the castle, and that was all. Cobwebs, heavy and black with dirt, draped every room. The garden was not taken care of. Wild hops and other climbing vines wove a tangled web between trees and shrubbery. Hemlock and nettles grew tall and rank. The blood beech had been outgrown, and in the deep shade, its leaves had turned as green as those of ordinary trees. Its glory was gone. Rooks, crows, and jackdaws flew in enormous flocks above the tall chestnuts. They shrieked and cawed as if they had great news to tell each other. Here she was again, the girl who ordered their eggs and babies to be stolen from their nests. The real thief, the one who had actually stolen them, was now climbing a leafless tree. He clung to the tall ship's mast and got his share of lashes with a rope's end if he didn't behave himself. All this was told in our own time by the parish clerk. He had pieced it together from books and letters, and it lay with many another manuscript hidden away in his table drawer. Up and down is the way the world goes, said he. It's a curious story to hear. We want to hear how it went with Marie Grubbe, but we shall not lose track of Chicken Grethe, who sat there in her fine hen house in our own day. Marie Grubbe sat in this place in her day, but not so contentedly as old Chicken Grethe. Winter went by, spring and summer passed, and again came the stormy autumn with its cold and wet fog. It was a dull and dreary life there on the old estate. Marie Grubbe would snatch up her gun and go out on the heath to shoot hares or foxes, and whatever birds she could find. More than once on these excursions, she encountered a nobleman, Sir Paul Dyer from Norabayek, with his gun and his dogs. He was a big man who enjoyed boasting of his strength when he talked with her. He might have been a match for the departed Mr. Brockenhuis of Egeskov at Fien, whom people still remember as a man of might. Like him, Palle Dyer had fastened a hunting horn to an iron chain over his gateway. When he came home, he would catch hold of the chain, lift himself and his horse clear off the ground, and sound the horn. "You must come to my castle and see that, Lady Marie," he said, "for we have fine fresh air at Norabak." We have no record of when she went to Norabak, but on the candlesticks at Norabak Church, it is inscribed that they were given by Palle Dyer and Marie Grubbe of Norabak Castle. Body and strength had Palle Dyer. He could drink like a sponge. He was like a cask that could never be filled. He snored enough for a whole pig pen, and he looked red and bloated. "A cunning swine and a nagging fool he is," said Lady Palle Dyer, the daughter of Grubbe. She soon grew weary of the life there, which did not improve matters. At dinner time one day, the food got cold on the table. Pal Dyer was off fox hunting, and Lady Dyer could not be found. Palla Dyer came home at midnight. Lady Dyer came home neither by midnight nor by morning. She turned her back upon Norabeek and rode away without a word of farewell. The weather was cloudy and wet. The wind was sharp, and the flock of black birds that croaked over her head were not as homeless as she. First, she rode south, almost to Germany. She turned a couple of gold rings with precious stones into ready money. She went east and she went west, with no fixed goal. She was angry with everybody, and even with the good Lord himself. So sick was her mind, and soon her body was sick too. She could scarcely drag her feet along. The lapwing flew up from its tuft of grass when she stumbled upon it and fell. The bird screamed, as it always does. "You thief! You thief!" Yet she had never stolen her neighbor's goods, except for the bird's eggs and nestlings taken from the clumps of grass and the tall trees when she was a little girl. She thought of that now. From where she lay, she could see the sand dunes along the beach. Fishermen lived there, but she was too ill to crawl so far. The great white seagulls came screaming over her as the rooks, crows, and jackdaws screamed above the trees at home. The birds flew nearer and nearer until at last she thought they were blackbirds. But then everything went black before her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she was being carried in the arms of a tall, strapping fellow. She looked straight into his bearded face and saw that he had a scar over one eye that appeared to divide the eyebrow in two. Sick as she was, he carried her to his ship, where he was abused by the shipmaster for bringing such a burden. The ship set sail next day. Marie Grubbe sailed with it. She was not put ashore. Didn't she ever come back? Yes, but when and how? The parish clerk could tell about this too. It was not a tale which he had pieced together. He had the whole strange story from a reliable book which we can get and read for ourselves. The Danish author Ludvig Holberg, who has written so many books worth reading and so many gay comedies by which we get to know his time and its people, mentions Marie Grubbe in his letters, which tell how and in what part of the world he found her. This is well worth hearing, but we shall not lose track of Chicken Grethe, who sits so happy and comfortable in her imposing chicken house. The ship sailed off with Marie Grubbe. That was where we left off. Year upon year went by. The plague was raging in Copenhagen. That was in the year of 1711. The Queen of Denmark went to her German home. The king left his capital, and everyone who could made haste to leave. The students, even those who had free board and lodging, scurried out of the city. One of them, the last student left at what they called Borch's College, near the students' headquarters, made ready to go. At 2 o'clock in the morning, he started out, with his knapsack stuffed with more books and manuscripts than clothes. A raw, dank mist hung over the city. Not a soul was to be seen in the street through which he passed. All around him, the gates and doors were marked with the crosses, which showed that there people lay ill or had died of the plague. Even in broad and winding Meatmonger's Street, as the street leading from the Round Tower to the King's Palace was called then, there was not a man to be seen. Suddenly, a large hearse came rumbling by. The driver cracked his whip to urge his horses into a gallop. For the wagon was crammed with to urge his horses into a gallop. For the wagon was crammed with corpses. The young student covered his face with his hands and breathed the fumes of strong spirits which he carried in a brass boxed sponge. From a grog shop in one of the streets came the sound of songs and forced laughter. Men were drinking the night away in an effort to forget that death stood at their door, beckoning to them to come with him and join the other dead men in the hearse. The student hurried on to Castle Bridge, where 2 small boats were moored. One of them was just about to cast off and quit the plague-ridden city. If the Lord spares out lives, and the wind serves us, we shall sail to Gronsund on Falster, the captain said, and he asked the name of this student who wanted to go with them. Ludwig Holberg, the student said, and at that time it sounded like any other name. Now it resounds as one of Denmark's proudest names. But he was then only a young student and unknown. The boat slipped past the castle, and before daybreak, they came to the open sea. A light breeze sprang up, and the sails filled. The student sat down with the wind in his face and fell asleep. And that wasn't exactly an advisable thing to do. On the 3rd morning, the boat was already at Falster. Do you know of anyone in this place with whom I can live cheaply? Holberg asked the captain. I believe you had best go to the ferryman's wife at Bora House, he said. If you want to be polite, call her Mother Soren Sorensen Muller. But she may turn angry if you show her too much politeness. Her husband is under arrest for some crime or other, and she runs the ferry herself. What fists she has! The student shouldered his knapsack and went to the ferry house. The door was not locked, so he lifted the latch and entered a brick-floored room in which a large folding bed with a big furred cover was the most noticeable piece of furniture. A white hen with her chickens around her was tied to the bedstead. She had upset her drinking dish, and water ran across the floor. No one was there or in the next room, except a little child who lay in a cradle. The ferry boat came back with only one person on board. Whether man or woman was hard to say. This person was wrapped in a great cloak with a hood that covered the head. When the boat was docked, it was a woman who entered the room. She had an impressive air as she straightened up and looked at him. Two proud eyes were set under her dark brows. It was Mother Soren, the ferryman's wife. Though rooks, crows, and jackdaws could scream out another name by which we would know her better. Glum she looked, and little enough she cared for talk. But it was settled that the student would stay and board with her for an undetermined time until things went well again in Copenhagen. Now and then, some honest fellows from the neighboring town dropped in at the ferry house. Among them were Frank, the cutler, and Sievert, the customs collector, who came to drink a mug of ale and to chat with the student. He was a thoughtful young man who knew what's what, as they said. He read Latin and Greek, and was well posted in many fields of knowledge. The less one knows, the lighter his burden, said Mother Soren. One day, when Holberg watched her wash clothes in strong lye and chop up knotty stumps for firewood, he told her, "You work too hard." "That's my business," she said. "Have you had to toil and slave this way ever since you were a child?" "Read the answer in my hands," she said, and showed him her two hands, small but strong and hard, with broken nails. "You know how to read. Read them." At Christmas time, there was a heavy snowfall. The cold made itself at home, and the winds blew as bitterly as if they were dashing acid in people's faces. Mother Soren didn't care. She flung on her cloak, drew up the hood, and went about her business. When the house grew dark early in the afternoon, she would throw pine knots on the fire and sit by it to darn her stockings, for she had no one to do it for her. As evening came on, she talked with the student more than she usually did. She spoke of her husband. By accident, he killed a captain from Dryad, and for this, they put him in chains and sentenced him to 3 years of hard labor on the King's Island. He is only an ordinary sailor, so the law must take its course, you know. The law applies to the upper classes too, Holberg said. Do you believe that? Mother Soren stared into the fire and then went on. Do you know the story of K. Lyka, who ordered one of his churches torn down? When Mads, the pastor, thundered from the pulpit against this, he had Mads clapped in irons and thrown in prison. Then he appointed himself judge, found Mads guilty, condemned him, and had his head struck off. That was no accident, yet K-Laika was never punished. He was within his right, according to the custom of his time, Holberg said. We have come a long way since then. Try to make fools believe you. Mother Soren got up and went into the next room, where Tosin, her little child, lay in the cradle. When she had tidied and aired the cradle, she made the student's bed. He had the big furred cover, for though he was born in Norway, he felt the cold more than she did. New Year's Day dawned clear and sunny. It was so cold that the snowdrifts were hard enough for one to walk across them. The bells in the village were ringing for church as student Holberg wrapped himself in his heavy cloak to set off for town. Rooks flew screeching over Bora House, and so did the crows and jackdaws. They made such a racket that you could scarcely hear the bells. Mother Soren stood outside, filling a brass kettle with snow to melt over the fire for drinking water. She gazed up at the dark swarm of birds and thought her own thoughts. Student Holberg went to church, and on his way back, he passed the house of Sivert, the customs collector. Sivert invited him in to warm himself from a bowl of mulled ale, sweetened with syrup and ginger. They started to talk about Mother Soren, but the customs collector knew little about her. Indeed, there were few who did. She is not a native of Falster, he said, and she has probably seen better days. Her husband is a common sailor with a violent temper. He killed a captain on Dryad, and though he used to beat his wife, she always sticks up for him. I would never stand for that, said the customs collector's wife. I too come of better stock. My father wove stockings for the king. So naturally, you married one of the king's officers, Holberg said, with a bow to her husband. 12th night came, and Mother Soren lighted for Holberg a candle of the 3 kings, that is, 3 small tallow candles, which she herself had prepared. A candle for each man, said Holberg. Each man? She exclaimed, and looked at him hard. Each of the wise men from the east, Holberg said. Oh, that's how you meant it, she said, and sat in silence for a while. But on that evening of the 3 kings, he learned a great deal about her that he had not known. You are fond of the man you are wedded to, Holberg said. Yet people tell me he daily mistreated you. That concerns no one but me, Mother Soren declared. The blows would have done me good had they fallen when I was a child. Now they probably fall for my sins. I only know the good he has done me. She stood up straight. When I lay ill and weak among the sand dunes, and no one would come near me, except perhaps the rooks, the crows, and the jackdaws who came to pick at me. He carried me in his arms and got hard words for bringing such a find on board his ship. I do not come of sickly stock, so I recovered. All of us have our faults, and Soren has his. One must not judge the horse by his halter. With him, I have led a more pleasant life than I did with him whom they called the highest and most gallant one of all the king's men. I have been married to Governor Gildenlove, half-brother to the king. Afterward, I took Paladire. Good or bad, each has his own way, and I have mine. That was a long story, and now you know it. Mother Soren went out of the room. So this was Marie Grubbe. So strangely does the ball of fortune turn. She did not live to see many more feasts of the Three Kings. Holberg wrote that she died in June 1716. But he did not write, for he did not know that when Mother Soren, as they called her, lay dead in Bora House, a flock of large black birds flew over the roof in silence. They did not scream, and it was as if they knew that at funerals one must be quiet. As soon as she was in her grave, the birds departed, but on that same evening, the birds were seen in enormous numbers over her old estate in Jutland. Rooks, crows, and jackdaws screamed to each other as if they had much to tell. Perhaps they croaked of him who robbed them of their eggs and young ones when he was a boy, the peasant boy who received an iron garter on the King's Island, and also of the high-born young lady who died a fairy woman at Gronsund. Bra, bra, they croaked, and bra, bra, the whole tribe croaked when the old castle was torn down. And this they cry still, though there is nothing left to croak about, said the parish clerk when he told the story. The family died out. The castle was torn down, and where it stood, the new hen house now stands, with its gilded weathercock on the roof, and chicken Grethe inside. There she sits, well satisfied with her cozy residence, for if she had not come here, she would have gone to the workhouse. The pigeons cooed above her, the turkeys clucked, and the ducks quacked around her. No one knew her, they said. She had no relatives. By an act of charity she came here, and children she had none. Nevertheless, she had ancestors, though she did not know of them, nor did the parish clerk, for all the manuscripts he had in his table drawer. But one of the old crows knew, and he told about it. From its mother and its grandmother, it had heard tell of chicken Grethe's mother and grandmother, whom we know too. We know how, as a child, she rode over the drawbridge and looked about proudly, as if the whole world and all the bird nests in it belonged to her. We also saw her on the sand dunes, and last at the fairy house. Her granddaughter, last of her line, had come home again where the old castle had stood, and where the wild birds croaked. But she sat among her tame fowls, known by them and on friendly terms with them. Chicken, Grethe had nothing more to wish for. She was happy to die, and old enough to die. "Grave, grave," the crows croaked. And Chicken Grethe was buried in a good grave. No one knows where it lies, except the old crow, if he isn't dead too. Now we know the story of the old castle and of all Chicken Grethe's family. What happened to the thistle? Beside the vast and splendid estate stretched a garden, so exquisite that travelers often paused just to marvel at its beauty. It was a place where every path seemed brushed by sunlight, and every flower had its own quiet song. Rare trees arched overhead like living chandeliers, their leaves murmuring secrets in the wind. Beds of tulips, roses, and lilies lay in perfect order, glowing with colors as soft as dreams. Guests of the manor wandered there in admiration, and their laughter mingled with the hum of bees and the whisper of the fountains. On Sundays and holidays, townsfolk would come from far and near, asking humbly at the gate if they might glimpse this paradise. Sometimes, whole schools of children arrived, their eyes wide with wonder, carrying home stories of the magical garden that bloomed beside the great estate. Just beyond the high fence that enclosed this little Eden, there stood a single, wild thistle. She grew in the narrow strip of earth between the polished world within and the dusty country lane without. Yet what a thistle she was! Strong, tall, and gloriously defiant, her leaves bristled like green armor, and her purple blossoms burned with royal color. She was no timid weed, but a queen of her kind. Still, no one noticed her beauty. No one except an old gray donkey who hauled the milkmaid's cart each morning. Whenever he passed, he would stretch out his long neck toward her, whispering in his gravelly voice, "Ah, what a beauty you are. I'd give my best load of hay just to taste you." But his rope was too short, and the thistle remained untouched, wild, free, and unseen. One radiant afternoon, the manor held a grand celebration. Gentlefolk in silks and satin filled the halls, and the sound of music drifted out through the open windows like perfume. Among the guests were noble relatives from the capital, young men with polished boots and confident smiles, and ladies who looked like flowers themselves in their flowing gowns. One of them, however, drew every gaze. A young woman who had come from far across the sea, from the misty hills of Scotland. Her hair glimmered like copper in the sunlight, and her eyes held the calm blue of northern skies. She was wealthy, high-born, and wise. Yet it was not her fortune, but her grace that made hearts tremble. Every mother thought her a perfect bride. Every young man thought the same. After the meal, the guests drifted into the garden to play croquet on the lawn. Laughter rang out as mallets clicked and balls rolled over the soft grass. The young ladies, in a playful mood, began plucking flowers from the garden to place in the buttonholes of their companions. Roses, lilies, and violets soon adorned the men's coats. But the Scottish lady, wandering thoughtfully among the paths, found none that pleased her. Her eyes roamed beyond the fence until she saw, rising tall and proud against the sky, the thistle bush in all her rugged beauty, its purple crowns blazing in the sun. "That one," she said with a sudden smile, "that is Scotland's flower. It blooms on my country's coat of arms. That, and no other, shall be mine." The young heir of the house, eager to please, climbed the fence. He reached for the finest blossom and promptly pricked his finger on a thorn as sharp as a sword. Yet he laughed at the pain, for when the lady placed the thistle in his buttonhole, he felt it was an honor greater than any medal. The other men looked on with envy, for none would not have traded their garden blooms for the wild token from her hand. And the thistle herself, watching, was filled with a trembling pride, as though the sun had poured golden wine into her veins. "I must be of finer breeding than I knew," she thought joyfully. "A flower of noble lineage. One of my children has crossed the fence and found its place upon a nobleman's heart. Surely I too belong among the chosen flowers." In the days that followed, the thistle told her story to every new bud that opened. The breeze carried whispers from the garden, and even from the open windows of the manor, she caught words of wonder. The Scottish lady and the young heir had fallen in love, and soon were to be married. "It was my doing," said the thistle proudly. "My flower began their love story." Her buds listened in awe. Soon she began to imagine her own future. "Any day now," she mused, "they will come for me. They'll dig up my roots gently and give me a place of honor inside the garden, perhaps even in a clay pot upon the terrace. What could be more fitting for the flower that united two hearts?" So she dreamed and dreamed until she half believed she already stood in a gilded pot. She promised each bud that bloomed, "You too will find your place beyond the fence, perhaps in a pot, perhaps even in a buttonhole." But none of her children were chosen. They lived and faded in the open air, kissed by sun and dew, visited by bees and wasps who came for honey and left her poorer for it. "What thieves they are," grumbled the thistle, "to take and never thank." Still, she kept her dignity. New flowers grew where the old had fallen. "Any moment now," she told them, "I shall cross the fence." The daisies and blades of grass nearby listened with admiration. Even the donkey stretched toward her longingly, though his rope still held him short. Time passed. Summer gave way to autumn. The garden blazed with color, but smelled faintly of farewell. The wind grew cooler, the evenings longer. "How strange," sighed the thistle. "They are wed now, those two whom I united. Yet I remain where I have always been, forgotten." But she consoled herself. A mother may wait patiently. Greatness is often slow to be recognized. One by one, her blossoms faded, until only one remained, a great silvered flower near her root, pale and beautiful as moonlight. When the cold wind blew, it shimmered like an artichoke of frost. Then, one crisp morning, the young couple strolled together down the garden path. The bride looked across the fence and exclaimed, "There still stands the grand thistle, but she has no flowers left." Her husband smiled and pointed. "There's the ghost of one, the last bloom, silver as a star." "How lovely," she said softly. "We must have one just like that, carved upon the frame of our wedding portrait." And once again, the young man climbed the fence and plucked the shining remnant. The thorns pricked him, as if to remind him that beauty often comes with pain. He carried the thistle into the manor, where a painter worked on a grand portrait, the newly married couple. In the picture, the groom wore a thistle in his buttonhole, and when the carving for the frame was designed, it was modeled after the thistle's final bloom, the one they had brought in from the roadside. The air itself seemed to hum with the tale, carrying it far beyond the garden walls. "How strange life is," murmured the thistle. "My eldest child rests in a nobleman's portrait, and my youngest adorns the frame. Perhaps this is what it means to have roots in one world and blossoms in another." The old donkey, passing once more, gazed at her fondly. "Sweet thistle," he sighed, "if only my rope were longer." But the thistle no longer answered. She stood still and thoughtful, watching the frost settle on the field, feeling both proud and peaceful. Christmas approached, and the world grew quiet. At last she whispered, "When a mother's children are safe inside, she can rest content outside the fence." A beam of sunlight broke through the gray sky and touched her gently. "That is a noble thought," said the sunbeam, "and because of it, you shall not be forgotten." "In a flower pot?" she asked hopefully. "In something finer," replied the sunbeam. "In a fairy tale, and here she blooms forever." What one can invent. There was once a young man who was studying to be a poet. He wanted to become one by Easter, and to marry, and to live by poetry. To write poems, he knew, only consists in being able to invent something, but he could not invent anything. He had been born too late. Everything had been taken up before he came into the world, and everything had been written and told about. "Happy people who were born 1,000 years ago," said he. "It was an easy matter for them to become immortal. Happy even was he who was born 100 years ago, for then there was still something about which a poem could be written. Now the world is written out, and what can I write poetry about?" Then he studied till he became ill and wretched, the wretched man. No doctor could help him, but perhaps the wise woman could. She lived in the little house by the wayside, where the gate is that she opened for those who rode and drove. But she could do more than unlock the gate. She was wiser than the doctor, who drives in his own carriage and pays tax for his rank. "I must go to her," said the young man. The house in which she dwelt was small and neat, but dreary to behold, for there were no flowers near it, no trees. By the door stood a beehive, which was very useful. There was also a little potato field, very useful, and an earth bank with sloe bushes upon it, which had done blossoming, and now bore fruit, sloes that draw one's mouth together if one tastes them before the frost has touched them. That's a true picture of our poetryless time that I see before me now, thought the young man. And that was at least a thought, a grain of gold that he found by the door of the wise woman. "Write that down," said she. "Even crumbs are bread. I know why you come hither. You cannot invent anything. And yet you want to be a poet by Easter." "Everything has been written down," said he. "Our time is not the old time." "No," said the woman. "In the old time-wise, women were burnt, and poets went about with empty stomachs, and very much out at elbows. The present time is good. It is the best of times. But you have not the right way of looking at it. Your ear is not sharpened to hear, and I fancy you do not say the Lord's Prayer in the evening. There is plenty here to write poems about and to tell of, for anyone who knows the way. You can read it in the fruits of the earth. You can draw it from the flowing and the standing water. But you must understand how. You must understand how to catch a sunbeam. Now just you try my spectacles on, and put my ear trumpet to your ear. and then pray to God, and leave off thinking of yourself. The last was a very difficult thing to do, more than a wise woman ought to ask. He received the spectacles and the ear trumpet, and was posted in the middle of the potato field. She put a great potato into his hand. Sounds came from within it. There came a song with words, the history of the potato, an everyday story in 10 parts, an interesting story, and 10 lines were enough to tell it in. And what did the potato sing? She sang of herself and of her family, of the arrival of the potato in Europe, of the misrepresentation to which she had been exposed before she was acknowledged, as she is now, to be a greater treasure than a lump of gold. We were distributed by the king's command from the council houses through the various towns, and proclamation was made of our great value. But no one believed in it, or even understood how to plant us. One man dug a hole in the earth and threw in his whole bushel of potatoes. Another put one potato here and another there in the ground, and expected that each was to come up a perfect tree from which he might shake down potatoes. And they certainly grew and produced flowers and green watery fruit. But it all withered away. Nobody thought of what was in the ground, the blessing, the potato. Yes, we have endured and suffered. That is to say, our forefathers have. They and we. It is all one. What a story it was. Well, and that will do, said the woman. Now look at the sloe bush. We have also some near relations in the home of the potatoes, but higher towards the north than they grew, said the sloes. There were Northmen from Norway who steered westward through mist and storm to an unknown land, where behind ice and snow they found plants and green meadows and bushes with blue-black grapes, sloe bushes. The grapes were ripened by the frost just as we are, and they called the land Wine Land, that is, Groenland, or Slow Land. That is quite a romantic story, said the young man. Yes, certainly. But now come with me, said the wise woman, and she led him to the beehive. He looked into it. What life and labor! There were bees standing in all the passages, waving their wings so that a wholesome draught of air might blow through the great manufactory. That was their business. Then there came in bees from without, who had been born with little baskets on their feet. They brought flower dust, which was poured out, sorted, and manufactured into honey and wax. They flew in and out. The queen bee wanted to fly out, but then all the other bees must have gone with her. It was not yet the time for that, but still she wanted to fly out. So the others bit off Her Majesty's wings, and she had to stay where she was. Now get upon the earth bank, said the wise woman, come and look out over the highway where you can see the people. What a crowd it is, said the young man. One story after another. It whirls and whirls. It's quite a confusion before my eyes. I shall go out at the back. No, go straight forward, said the woman. Go straight into the crowd of people. Look at them in the right way. Have an ear to hear and the right heart to feel. And you will soon invent something. But before you go away, you must give me my spectacles and my ear trumpet again. And so saying, she took both from him. Now I do not see the smallest thing, said the young man. And now I don't hear anything more. Why then, you can't be a poet by Easter, said the wise woman. But by what time can I be one? Asked he. Neither by Easter nor by Whitsuntide. You will not learn how to invent anything. What must I do to earn my bread by poetry? You can do that before Shrove Tuesday. Hunt the poets, kill their writings, and thus you will kill them. Don't be put out of countenance. Strike at them boldly, and you'll have carnival cake, on which you can support yourself and your wife too. What one can invent, cried the young man. And so he hit out boldly at every second poet, because he could not be a poet himself. We have it from the wise woman. She knows what one can invent.